So 31 to 35. We'll start looking at the 31st verse. Vishwarupa Darshana Yoga, 11th chapter. आख्याहि मे को भवान् उग्ररूपः नमोऽस्तु ते देववर प्रसीद विज्ञातुम् इच्छामि भवन्तमाद्यं न हि प्रजानामि तव प्रवृत्तिम्. So we saw up until last time where Krishna's the process of Vishwarupa Darshanam is causing different emotions in Arjuna. So he started off with feeling doubtful, and then he started off with wanting to see it. Having heard, he's wanting to see it, and then having seen it, he is exhilarated, and now he is terrified. So he's moving through a whole range of emotions within him. In fact, in the previous one, he says, I don't know what to feel. I don't know what to feel. So this happens when there is when there are a lot of questions and when they apparently seem to get answered in some way, or the questions start dropping, we don't know what to feel at the end of it. Because feeling is an emotion, or feeling is a state that we forcibly bring upon ourselves in many ways. If somebody were to go and ask a Mahatma, what do you feel? If you go and ask Ram Surat Kumar, sitting in Tiruvannamalai, or you ask somebody like Neem Karoli Baba or Swami Nityananda, you go and ask them, how are you feeling today? What are you feeling today? Generally, we ask this, right, everybody. So, how are you feeling today? How do we go? Either we tell the truth or we tell a lie. And both are rooted in a way where we we think that's the right thing to feel something. So if somebody says, how are you feeling? So then there are enough people have told us to always say, I'm feeling great, I'm feeling wonderful, I'm feeling superb, I'm feeling. You show all that, exaggerated feeling. But you never really know what you're feeling. You may be feeling horrible and terrible inside. But just because we've been taught and we say that in the world you should always appear positive and you should, you should spread the positivity around. So somebody says, how are you feeling? You'll do that. Or they say, how are you feeling? Ayyo, adi yen keh kara hai, apni they will start their story. And then you'll have to back out saying, oh, Chuma, I just asked for formality how you're feeling. I don't really want to know how you're feeling. They start explaining, we are not in a position to deal with all that, right? We all have our own things to deal with. But imagine what will these Mahatmas say when you go and ask them, how are you feeling? So it becomes an irrelevant question. It becomes an irrelevant question because they are not governed by feelings. They are not trying to feel something. We always try to feel something. We either want to feel good or we feel bad, we want to feel good, we are feeling depressed, we want to feel joyful, we are feeling horrible, we want to feel positive. Is it possible to be in a state where there is actually no feeling? Really, you're not you're not trying to figure out what to feel. A lot of times we also go into meditation, we wanting to feel good at the end of it, which is why they call this as a feel good factor. There's a term that's used to feel good, a feel good factor, which means there is very little truth in it. See, when the wind blows, nice wind blows, and if you are sweating and a nice wind blows, you will feel good. If you're shivering and having fever, the same wind will feel extremely bothersome. So the wind is the same. The feelings that we, and what happens is we want to focus on these feelings. How am I feeling right now? And these days it's become a fashion also. I do what I feel like. அப்படின்னு சொல்லி அது ஒரு பெருமையா பேசின்னு இருப்பா. These are all ungoverned or not. These are emotions that are not governed properly. They don't arise in the right place. Because our feelings are always combination of the external condition and our internal constitution. The way we are configured internally through our vasanas, our impressions, our karma, our behavior, our conditioning, and the external condition. It's a combination of the two. And we end up wanting to make sense out of it. Think about times when you actually had no feeling. Somebody comes and asks, if you're sitting there and beautifully just watching a morning sunrise, or if you're um, watching the mountains and the clouds and birds going, sitting at some place, just silently sitting and watching. When somebody comes and asks, how are you feeling? The question itself will feel like you don't feel like wanting to answer. You may have experienced this. I think it's a very subtle experience, right? You may not at that time you go, yes, I'm feeling wonderful. Look at those birds and look at the trees. அப்படிலாம் பேச மாட்டோம். We will not get extra dramatic and all that. We will want to be silent because we are not wanting to feel anything at that time. We are just being. And this is the difference. What happens when you surpass or go beyond feeling into being? You actually don't know what you feel. But the problem is not knowing what to feel. The problem is thinking that I don't know what I'm feeling. The problem comes later. This is what Arjuna is going through. He doesn't know what he is feeling because he's not experienced this before. Like in movie somebody comes and slaps Vadivelu tight up. And then he asks, uh, what are you, then he tells him something. And all Vadivelu is able to see is lips moving. So then guy is asks, are you able to hear me or not? He's saying, I'm able to only hear one sound. Goin or சத்தம் மட்டும் கேட்கறது அப்படி. That going satam essentially there's no meaning to it. And so the mind is trying to make sense out of it. You're stunned. So when your mind goes into a place of being stunned, don't know what to feel. This is our state also. When we have a very surreal or a subtle experience during meditation or during some kind of dhyana or bhajan, or even coming and sitting and doing your daily chant, or you're sitting and watching something beautiful, you're sitting in nature, just watching the rain falling, wherever, when you're just feeling, you're just experiencing the being, the presence, The mind is in a state of stun. But in somebody, when you ask yourself, what am I feeling? You may say that I felt good. Excuse me. Say, I may have felt good. I felt silent. I felt peaceful. But the mind is also trying to figure out what is that feeling. Arjuna is in a similar state. So he's seen all of this. He's seen such grand display that he's gone into a state of stun. And in that state of stun, he is not able to make sense about what he's feeling. It is a beautiful state to be. See, now you will notice the condition of Arjuna, even though, and remember, this is possible with us also. He is somebody like Arjuna, who's a Savya Sachin, who is a Parantapa, who's such a valorous and a great warrior, who is completely disciplined inside out. To such a person, when Bhagavan comes and gives his Divya Darshanam, he is not knowing, he doesn't know how to receive it. And we keep saying that, oh, கடவுள் வரவே மாட்டேங்கிறது, I'm praying so much, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and God is not coming to me. The problem is, if he comes, we will not be able to receive. Are we in a state to receive? So he has gone into the situation where he is unable to, he's received this, he's felt exhilarated, he's felt joyful, he's felt all of that, but then he is also felt stunned. He's felt he doesn't know what to feel. Of course, later he comes to his senses a little bit and say he feels kritagyata, he feels grateful, he feels completely, he feels so small, he feels grateful for what he has received and he's getting. But then this is also a phase that you go through, not knowing what you're actually feeling, but it's a good state to be in. That is something that is important to understand, that it is a good state to be in. It doesn't have to, we don't have to necessarily make sense of every feeling that we are going through. We don't have to overanalyze every feeling, every sensation, every thought, and every emotion. We don't have to analyze all of that. We have to find that space where we go in and we don't know what is happening. You're just in that presence, in that being, silence. We don't have to name it. So now Arjuna is saying, Akyahi me, tell me, Bhavan Ugra Rupaha, Namostu te Devavara Prasida, Vigyatum Ichchami Bhavantam Nahi Prajanami Tava Pravrittim. I bow down to this fierce form of yours, O Bhagavan, and bestow your grace upon me. Devavara Prasida. You and Vijnatam Ichchami Bhavantam Adyam. I wish to know who you really are, because I don't understand you and what you're doing and what your workings. I don't understand. Nahi prajanami tava pravrittim. I don't understand your pravritti. I don't understand this thing. And which is also true. The mind cannot comprehend. This also goes to say that the mind is an instrument which cannot comprehend the maker of the mind. The clock cannot understand the clockmaker. Right? The pot cannot understand the kumbhaka. So that way, the creation cannot understand the creator. So we cannot use the same tool. Which is why there words cannot go. Thoughts cannot go. Yatha vacha nivartante. What does it go? Yatha vacha nivartante yaprapya manasa saha. यथो वाचा निवर्तन्ते अप्राप्य मनसा सह. यथो वाचा निवर्तन्ते अप्राप्य मनसा सह. So yatho vacha nivartante, where your mind cannot reach that place. Comes in Taittiriya Upanishad. Yato vacha nivartante aprapya manasa saha. Aprapya manasa saha. Mind cannot go to that place. Brahmana anandam vidvan kutaschana na bibheti. Etam habhava na tapati. Aham kim papam akaravam iti. सह यह एवं विद्वान एते उभे आत्मानं स्पृणुते. This is atma, he says. And so the place where words cannot go, words cannot reach that place. Aprapya manasa saha. The mind cannot go and reach it. So he is trying to understand with his from whatever he understands, with his limited understanding, he is trying to understand. It's not possible. And that is where the mind goes stunned. The mind gets into a stunned state. Then he goes on. He says in the 32nd verse. So then till this, Arjuna is showing his state of fear to him. Okay. There's something about fear I said we will possibly touch upon today, right? If you recall. This was from Vairagya Shatakam of Bhartrahari. So there's a sage called Bhartrahari. He lived in Ujjain. There is actually a cave even now, Bhartrahari caves in Ujjain. Those who go to meet Mahakaleshwar, they also make a trip to Bhartrahari caves. And so he was the brother of a king or something of that sort, and he gave up Rajyam because he was not very. There was a lot of Vairagya that came into him, dispassion. And he had composed a work called Vairagya Shatakam, which means 100 verses on Vairagya. And there's one verse that stuck with me, and it's so beautiful. I'll just read that verse to you. Bhoge roga bhayam, kule chuti bhayam, vitte nripalad bhayam, mane dainya bhayam, bale ripu bhayam, रूपे जराया भयम, शास्त्रे वादि भयम, गुणे खल भयम, काये कृतांताद भयम, सर्वं वस्तु भयान्वितम भुवि नृणाम वैराग्यम एव अभयम. This is bhoge roga bhayam, which means when somebody is enjoying something, there is always a fear of disease. Bhoge roga bhayam. Kule chuti bhayam. Somebody who is associating themselves with the kula. I belong to this kula, I belong to that dynasty, this lineage. Chuti bhayam means it can become kshaya. The lineage can get diminished. So there is a fear of that. Vitte nripalat bhayam. Vitta is somebody who is wealthy. Nripalat bhayam. He is afraid of other kings, or a king is afraid of other kings because your wealth can any day can be taken away. Right? The other kings can come and attack you. Mane dainya bhayam. Mane dainya bhayam means if you are carrying man, which means pride, then dainya bhayam means you can always be humiliated. Right? Somebody is carrying pride, only that person can be humiliated easily or insulted. நீ என்ன வேணாலும் சொல்லிட்டு போ. If you're like that, they'll not feel humiliated because they're not carrying pride. If one doesn't carry too much about an air about themselves, someone says also they'll not be too worried. But one who carries this bhayam is there. Mane dainya bhayam. Bale ripu bhayam. If you have strength, ripu. enemies or somebody. There's always somebody who's strong, somebody will come and challenge you for a fight. Ripu bhayam. Rupe jaraya bhayam. If you have rupa, form, beautiful form, jaraya bhayam, old age. There is always fear of old age. Shastre vadi bhayam. If you think you are learned, anybody can come and challenge you. So you will see this with people. If they think they know a lot, if they think they've studied and learned a lot, they're always worried about being challenged, because worried means they're always on their toes. They're on their toes to respond, retort, because they want to be seen. They cannot be seen as somebody who doesn't know. Shastre vadi bhayam. Vada. Anybody can come and challenge you for a vada. And because of this Shastra Vidya that you have, you will want to stand up and show your intellect. Shastre Vadi Bhayam. So there is always this fear. When will somebody make me look like a fool? If somebody is upfront saying, okay, pa, enak vishyam theriyadu, I don't know much. What can you go and do to him? And somebody says, I know this, I know that, then you challenge, and then that person is starting to defend himself. This is what happened to Mandana Mishra. Why did his flower started to become, it started to decay? Because there was heat that got generated in his body. Because as Adi Shankara was telling points, and this man he is so arrogant about his knowledge, and there are people around him. This place where the debate is happening is in Mandana Mishra's house. So Adi Shankara is a visitor. So people around know Mandana Mishra for so many years, and they know him as somebody who's a stalwart, as an intellect, who's a scholar, and he has always said things with so much of logical appeal and all of that. And there is this person who's coming and very easily, not easily, but slowly, progressively cornering Mandana Mishra and putting him into a place where Mandana Mishra is not able to respond. So the fear of humiliation also. Shastre Vadi Bhayam. He's come and now challenged Mandana Mishra, Adi Shankara. And if he's challenged you in your own place, in your own hometown, within your house, where your own people who regard you as the scholar, you're sitting there and now you're not just the fear of failure, it is a fear of humiliation from people around. Shastre Vadi Bhayam. Then Gune Khala Bhayam. Gune Khala Bhayam, which means somebody who's a very Sadguna person. Sarvaguna Sampanna. Somebody is saying that I am, everything is absolutely perfect. I am blemishless. I carry an extremely high character. If he thinks all of this, Khalabhayam, there is an easy way to stain. We've seen movies, there may be stories or even may have happened in reality, which there is a teacher in this thing in the village is a very, very teacher of high ideal and character and all of that. Everybody will regard that teacher, and suddenly some miscreants in the village who are not very, who don't like that kind of respect given to the teacher, will suddenly send a prostitute into the house, and the teacher will get caught um, red-handed. This lady will be there, and then everybody will stone the teacher and drive him away, things like that, right? So what has happened now, this guy is so there is so much of, in a way, a pride of their own character. That's easy to come and distort it, to malign it. The same thing happened to Yudhishthir also. Yudhishthir is asked, so you speak Satyam, you always hold high ideals, and you are of very high character. Then Duryodhana asks him, do you have arrogance that you have great character? And Yudhishthir says yes. Correct? Somebody who wants to hold themselves in a position where I always want to be right. I may be right or wrong, but I always want to be right. I always want to be seen correct. There is a high likelihood, or very easily, that person can get disturbed. Gune khala bhayam. You can stain their character easily. Kaye kritantat bhayam. If you have love for this body, there is death, the fear of death. Krita anta. Krita anta bhayam. Kaye kritantat bhayam. If you love this body, there is fear of death all the time. Then he goes to say, Sarvam vastu bhayanvitam bhuvi nranam. In all vastu in this world, bhuvi nranam, O manusha, O manava, in this world, on all vastu, sarvam bhayanvitam. Bhayanvitam. Everything is filled with fear. And he says, Vairagyam eva abhayam. Vairagyam alone is abhayam, can give you abhayam, which means dispassion. Not attaching, not holding on to anything, your emotions, your fears, your emotions, your thoughts, your properties, your possessions, your people, your own image about yourself. Nothing. Hold on to nothing. Then that gives you liberation, some kind of fearlessness. Abhaya is one of the anugraha that Bhagavan gives, right? Abhaya Varada Mudra. He gives fearlessness and he gives blessings. Abhaya is an important state of the mind. Need to get to a state where there is no fear. So this is also something that we learn from Arjuna, that he was in the state of fear. He was in the state of fear because these are there within him. Ketta per vandirthana enna aidum. What will happen if I get the wrong name? Somebody says that, oh, Arjuna was not able to fight. Oh, Arjuna did not do this. Arjuna did not do that. A lot of these things, it manifests in different ways. A lot of times, if you notice, Bhaya does not manifest necessarily in the way of the root cause. It will manifest in very different ways. It can be locked up in different places within the body. And it can manifest in different ways. It's for us to understand, go back and try and see where is an action or a reaction or something originating from. Insecurity, we see this in people. Every time now, children are starting to exhibit insecurity, fear, FOMO, fear of missing out. This is a new term that's there now, right? We didn't have this during the last, just probably last 10 years or so, you start hearing this term, FOMO, fear of missing out. And they're calling it a term and they're identifying it and saying that I am having FOMO. It's as though it is like a great thing to carry with you. Fear of missing out. So there are 10 people doing something, they're fearing that I may miss out something. Insecurities. And we're feeding all of this. Vairagyam eva abhayam. So if you're able to stand there naked, just drop everything and be there in that presence and try to absorb and receive. It's a different experience. And then you go back to what we spoke at the start. Don't try to analyze what am I feeling now? What should I feel? Is this the right feeling? None of that. Yes, Mama?
இந்த ஃபியர் ஃபேக்டர் தான் முதல்ல அவர் கிருஷ்ணர் ஆரம்பிக்கும் போது சொல்றாரு, நீ சண்டை போடலன்னா அப்புறம் எல்லாரும் உனக்கு கேவலமா பேசுவா அப்படிலாம் சொல்லி பார்த்தாரு இல்லையா? த ஃபியர் ஃபேக்டர், லைக் வாட்
Correct.
வில் திங்க் அபவுட் யூ இஃப் யூ ரன் அவே அப்படிலாம் சொல்லி பாரு. அது அப்ப அந்த அந்த சமயத்துல அவருக்கு வந்து அந்த ஃபியரோட இன்னொரு ஜாஸ்தியா இருந்தது இல்லையா?
Correct.
some other which was above this fear because
Ama.
that did work out அவனுக்கு இல்லையா?
True. Absolutely. If he would have given in to what Krishna was trying, because Bhagavad Gita wouldn't have happened if he fell in for that. He said Krishna saying, what will people speak and all that. Then Achicho, if he gets up and then starts fighting, Bhagavad Gita wouldn't have happened. But fortunately for us, Krishna at that time, like Mama is saying, he was overwhelmed with something else, which was greater than fear, which is greater than the not the fear of humiliation, but it is the fear of losing the
Something
whole
losing
losing.
அந்த அட்டாச்மெண்ட் லூஸ் ஆகுதுங்கிற அந்த ஃபியர் தானே தவிர
That fear was greater.
அதை பத்தி அக்கறை இல்லை. ஏன்னா வந்து அதை விட்டு எல்லாத்தையும் விட்டுட்டு நான் என்ன ஆனாலும் பரவாயில்ல, இந்த ராஜ்யம் தேவையா அப்படின்லாம் மட்டும் ஓடிலான்னு தான் இருந்தது.
Correct.
So the real fear was it was in fact grief. He
Correct.
was having grief of இந்த அட்டாச்மெண்ட்னால வரக்கூடிய grief அது இல்லையா?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely true. Vishada Yoga. And which is actually very interesting, which is what I just mentioned a moment ago, is the display of our emotions are multi-layered. We need to carefully observe what is that fear that is really bothering us. Because one fear can be a display, but actually the fear may be something else. I fear losing you. Something may happen to you, I fear. But actually the fear is if you are gone, what will happen to me? The fear is not about you. The fear is about actually me. Like that, every fear.
நம்ம குழந்தையில போட்டு அடிக்கிறது ஒழுங்கா படி அப்படின்னு காரணமே அவர் அவர் நம்மளோட பையன் சரியா படிக்கலன்னு யாரும் சொல்லிவிடுவாங்களோ அந்த பயம் தான் நமக்கு இருக்குமே தவிர பார்ப்பாங்க அது போகாது நமக்கு. This is it's always the fear finally centers on you.
Yes.
Rather than other things, இல்லையா?
Absolutely.
That is the most fearful thing that we can have. மற்றவங்களுக்கு ஃபியரோட நம்மளுக்கு வரக்கூடிய ஃபியர் தான் it is more intense.
Absolutely. And which is what is, and it exhibits in different forms. So it is important for us to retract back and evaluate where is this fear rising from? What is this insecurity? What is this fear of humiliation? This fear of being lonely? Right? What if I suddenly become lonely? What if nobody pays attention to me? What if everything is stripped away from me? These are the fears. But we clothe it differently and we say, I'm worried for you. I'm caring for you. I'm telling it for your good. We clothe it differently. So Arjuna is right now in a state where he's going through some of these fears are coming out in various ways, which is why even when Bhagavan is giving him the prasada of Vishwarupa Darshanam, fear is setting in. Because fear is our fundamental fear is an animal instinct, literally. Because fear is required when you're an animal, fear is required for preservation of yourself. If you're not afraid that an animal will come and attack you, you will not run away. You will stand there, an animal will attack and you'll die. So the sense of self-preservation, for that, fear is the tool. So fear makes you do something so that you can preserve this. But in the path of spiritual sadhana, preservation of this is the last criteria. This path of spiritual sadhana or spiritual pursuit, self-preservation is not the primary goal. Although you make sure this body, mind doesn't become a hindrance in your path, preserving this is not your goal. Right? So then Bhagavan comes in. 32 verse. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha कालोऽस्मि लोकक्षयकृत् प्रवृद्धः लोकान् समाहर्तुम् इह प्रवृत्तः ऋतेऽपि त्वां न भविष्यन्ति सर्वे येव स्थिताः प्रत्यनीकेषु योधाः. So then Bhagavan starts explaining, says that I am Kala, I am the destroyer of all time, I am the source of all destruction from which everything, Loka Kshayakrita. I am the source of all destruction. Kshaya, Loka Kshayakrita. I do, what do I do? I destroy all worlds. I am time, Kalaha Asmi. Pravruddhaha. Lokan Samahartum. I annihilate all worlds. Pravruttaha, this world. This world, this is what I do. Pravruttaha. I participate. I do this. Ritepi tvam na bhavishyanti sarve. And without me, and says, even without you being there, na bhavishyanti sarve. These, all that you're seeing will not exist. Eva sthitav pratyanikeshu yodhaha. So these all yodha that you see, all these warriors that you see, they will not exist even when you are not there, or even when you are not participating. If suppose you're not participating in this war, they will eventually die anyways. So it says they will eventually anyways die. Because I am Kala, I am telling you, I am the destroyer of everything. Tasmat tvam uttishta yasho labhasva. You rise up to glory. Jitva shatrun bhunkshva rajyam samruddham. So you conquer your enemies and enjoy Rajyam samruddham. Mayaiv eva ete nihataah purvameva. Purvameva aham nihataah. I have killed all of them. Mayaiva nihataah. Maya eva means by me all of these have already been purvameva nihataah. They have been killed much earlier. Nimittamatram bhava savyasachin. You become only the instrument. Just become an instrument in what I am telling you to do. Right? And then Bhagavan goes on to say, Dronam cha Bhishman cha Jayadrathan cha Karnam tathanyaan api Yodhaviran maya hatam stvam jahima vyatishta yudhyasva jetasi rane sapatnan. Saying, don't worry about all of these people. Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, all of them have been killed by me. So you're just doing the action of moving the sword or throwing or shooting the arrow at them. You just do what I'm saying and you'll be victorious in this battle. So in that form, now remember, Bhagavan is still in that big form, and from that Akashavani is coming. He's hearing that. He's saying that I'm showing all of this so that, see, now what Bhagavan is doing is showing some fear to Arjuna, because a lot of times as parents also, we do this with our kids. Right? We also show this. When we keep telling, explaining, they don't understand. Why மூடிட்டு பண்ணு அப்படின்னு சொல்றோம் தெரியுமா? So Bhagavan is saying he's taking that large form and he's creating that fear and saying, just do what I'm saying. Just do it. Don't think. In the last verse, he says, the next verse is Sanjay Uvacha. Sanjay starts describing what he is experiencing. Etat chritva vachanam keshavasya kritanjalir vepamanah kiriti namaskritva bhuya evaha krishnam sadgadam sagadgadam bhita pranamya. So he says here, Arjuna in his trembling form, he's trembling now with fear. He is bowing down to Krishna. He's bowing down to Jagannatha. He's bowing down in complete adoration and also surrender. Because now he has realized there is no point in even asking a question or going against any of this. Right? Because it is the The Mahakala himself is standing there and he's taking care of everything. I just had to listen to him. I have no other option than listening. Right? So he bows down, pranamya, bows down to him, even though he's vepamana, he is trembling. Kritanjalir. Kritanjalir means complete surrender, bowing down. He is now surrendering himself, bowing down to Krishna. So we will see next week Arjuna's journey from there, how he bows down to Krishna and how he propitiates him, and how he recognizes that how he was mistaking Krishna for this human being in this little form, and that he is this Jagannatha and he seeks forgiveness. We'll see this next week. Okay. Om कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि सदाशिवायेति समर्पयामि जगदम्बिकायेति समर्पयामि सद्गुरुनाथायेति समर्पयामि हरि ओम तत्सद्गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम
धन्योऽस्मि। हरि ओम्, धन्योऽस्मि।
धन्यवादः धन्यवादः
हरि ओम्।